Hey everybody, this is Cody, and let's go do some. All right, so today what we got, I'll show you a quick clip. So I hooked up the voltmeter to the battery. I was sitting there running. I was keeping a solid 12 volts at all time. You know how it runs on these new trucks; they pull a little more voltage. But so I went ahead and diagnosed. I didn't think my alternator was going bad, but I also know this is a 2019 Ford F150 EcoBoost on it. These trucks are pretty bad about they got a wire that runs into the bottom of the alternator, and just the way Ford designed and it run up to it, they're pretty bad about shearing the wires off right there. So I was like, well, let me start going and check these wires. As I started checking the wires, I started noticing it looked like I had some blow by. I had some oil coming out of that top right here. Not real sure where it's coming out of yet, but it looks like it's blue oil down into my alternator. I'm hoping my contacts is just dirty. I gotta fix the gasket. I don't know. We're gonna find out. But let's dive in this together and see if we can't figure out what's going on with it. All right. So first thing, before you ever start tearing off into anything in these trucks, there's so many electrical components. It really doesn't matter what you're doing in here. If I get off into anything where I'm going to unplug any wires, any sensors, I always disconnect the battery first. So first off and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and take a 10 millimeter when you can find them. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the battery. Always unhook the ground side. Pull the wire off and push it down there and just make sure it's not going to get back on the post while you're in there working on it. You don't want to short anything out, or that creates more problems than what you had to begin with. So now we're going to get you set up here, and we're going to get you set up where you can kind of see what I'm doing is here. I'm going to show you as I'm tearing off into here, and I'm going to get us a clearer view where we can see down in here on what's actually going on. So give me a minute and let's get set up. So now we got you somewhat set up. Got another camera over here it's filming as well. So hopefully between the two, we can kind of get you clean video of what's going on and what I'm doing, because I'd like for you to be able to see what I'm unhooking and what I'm disconnecting. If you ever have to tear it apart, you can kind of see what I'm doing and go back to it. But first off, I'm gonna go ahead. And pull this main right here off of the vacuum box clip where I said vacuum box, because it's not a vacuum box. All right. If my editor does the job, you won't know that I ever said vacuum box on the fly like that. It's the air intake. I'm going to go ahead and pull this main right here off of the vacuum box clip where I said vacuum box, because it's not a vacuum box. Guys, I'm telling you, I somewhat know what I'm talking about. Mostly. All right. So now, go ahead and disconnect these clamps. I'll get this line off here so we can actually see something. This kind of blocks the whole top of the engine bay right here, so you can't see anything. Hopefully, I've had to get into this before, so I've got my clip set to where you can get to them pretty easily, but for the most part, they should already be preset where they're kind of easier to get to, except for the bottom down here. It's usually a little bit more of a fight, but it ain't too bad. All right, now we pull that off. We set it over out of the way. All right. And then here, you already got a couple vacuum lines that hook in down here on the bottom. Make sure, be careful with these clips. All they are is they're little press tabs that you push in on the back side right there, and they pop right out. They're very, very easy. if you're having to fight them, you're probably doing something wrong. So just be careful with them. If you've got to force it, it's something's not right. Just kind of back up, look at it, make sure that you're just because they should easily see. Zoom in on this right here so they can see what I'm talking about. You got these clips right here, and you're going to want to press in on both of these clips and push, and right there, and then it goes. They see how they pop out on the first clip. Now don't keep trying to pop them. If you do, you'll pop the things all the way out. And then you just want to pop them forward. You'll hear it click when you pop it forward, and now it's unlocked and it'll pull right off of the hose. They're very simple and they're very easy. You shouldn't have to fight it. You shouldn't have to force it. If you are, you're not doing something right. So just kind of back up and look at it. I say this all the time whenever you're fooling with vehicles, especially when it comes to electrical components and your vacuum lines. If you're having to force it, usually it's not right. You don't want to have to force something into play, especially on these, because if you snap that ear off right there to where these vacuum lines go in, you have now created yourself an entire mess that you didn't want to have to deal with to begin with. Um, all right, so let me finish getting this. I was just sitting here telling y'all that most of these clips are pretty easy to get to, and then here this one is, and yeah, I've got it set up in the back, but it ain't too bad. All right, let's see here. For the most part, you just kind of, after you loosen it, you just work it back and forth off of there, just like that. And then you want to make sure you got any clips or clamps. And you also have a wire on the back of this one. Do not snatch that wire out. It's a sensor that goes right here on the top side here. And then take and lay that back out of the way. Now, we can see what we're working on. So now, I'm going to go ahead and remove the cover. I can tell you though, I'm already seeing that's wet right there. Already looks like I'm seeing oil. So that's not good. All right, let's go ahead and pull that cover off. Go ahead and grab another 10 mil. Get down in here. You ain't got to use an extension, but it does help. And yes, I do use ratchets. Pull this off of here. All right. Oh yeah. We've got oil everywhere. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's oil. See how all this is white? You can see where oil's been spraying up on the bottom side of this cloth here. So I'm gonna tell you one thing that I love. I have several of them. These little magnetic trays. They're absolutely great. You keep up with all your bolts, keep up with everything. Even if you're not leaving them right here up under the bay as you're working on it, it's good to have them. That way it just holds all your stuff together, because if not, you will look for a nut that size for longer than it took you to fix everything. Okay. So, as you can see, around both VVT solenoids, there's oil puddled up around the bottom right here. Looks like it's blown through the seal, and I don't know if the seals went bad here. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't seem as if the other side has any oil on it at all, so it's just this side. But it looks like it's been pouring pretty good, because it's all over everything back here. It looks like it's been spraying out for a second. So it looks like I'm gonna have to tear down this top side on the right side here, because unfortunately there's no real way to check that without taking the entire cover off here. So I guess we're going to have to go ahead and tear down into this side here, and I guess we'll see what we run into as we go. I was hoping I wasn't going to have to tear down this top side, but nothing much more we can do about it now except tear off into it and fix these seals. It's not that bad. I've been off into the top end of this one before, so we'll get in there. It's just you have two O-rings right here that seal it off. Let's seal it off to the top of that, to the cover here. So I guess now I'm gonna get you set up. We'll get all the cameras set up and everything where we can get in and actually see a little bit more of what we're working on here. We can see as I'm taking it apart and try to give you a little bit more of an insight of what I'm doing. And then we'll start tearing into this thing and get these O-rings fixed. That way we can get this all back together and get the wires cleaned out on the alternator. The good news is it looks like it's going to be, because there's oil dripping down into the top of my alternator there. It looks like it's probably gotten into my contacts down there. So I probably just need to blow the oil out of it, clean out my contacts on my alternator, and charging should be perfectly fine. Thank God that the oil dripped down in it, and it caused this before I started having bigger issues, because I was having oil pouring out that I didn't realize I was having. All right, so give me a minute here. Let me get everything set up. We'll get started tearing it down. Got y'all set back up here. So first things first, we got to pull this intake. We're going to see how the bottom of the valve cover gasket is. I know for a fact that the VVT solenoid gaskets are now leaking around in the valve cover. So, but to get the valve cover off, first we got to pull the intake, and we'll get you repositioned over here where you can see me taking off this valve cover gasket. But to begin with, we're going to go ahead, get an 8mm, and we're going to start taking the bolts out of this intake. Some of this isn't quite so fun to get to, but it's doable. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pop some of these clips. I see immediately this is going to have to come off. We've got vacuum lines running all around here. And these clips here kind of work like the others. You just kind of pop them around, and all they do is they pop up and they slide forward. Shift it forward the first time, and these pop off. But be careful, because if you continue to pop, the whole end will pop off, and then you'll have to fight with trying to get it back on. So, disconnect that one there. And this one here should actually, it's got a little clip back here in the back that it pops onto. So you can actually pop that completely up and kind of, and I go ahead, and I recommend that you do it as well. Get back in here and pop this back clip and pop it. Even though it's a little bit of a pain to get to, but then you can go ahead and pop this completely out. There's also a wire that's hooked up back here in the back. Have to get a little better position so I can get back up in here. Just be careful where you put your knees, or if you get off on anything and break it, you have a problem. All right, so there's a wire back here. It's got a little clip that you just got to push straight back. It's got a little white tab. You push straight back, and it'll just unplug. Very easy. As I've told y'all before, you don't have to force this stuff. It's got little clips on it, and if you clip it right or you hit it right, it'll come right off. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to force it. It'll just pop right out. If you're fighting it and forcing it, you got to be careful, because you're going to end up breaking the clip or breaking something that it's going to make it a pain for you later on. You want all this to go back together right. We'll set this over here out of the way. All right. Now we're going to remove clip here. It's got a little pull. There are little pull tabs that you pull and you clip back. You just pull it back and it'll pop right off. But that one there, I'm trying to remember how I done this one on the bottom. These are typically a little stouter to pull off than the other ones. All it is a little blue tab that you pull one direction. You just kind of roll them. Let me get it off of here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But you want to pop this one first, and it'll roll around here. Pop this one forward, up like that. Pull it straight off there. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So these are a little different style than the other ones. So these ones here, they have these little blue tabs here. See, when you pull it, how it gives you enough room to be able to pop it off. And that's all you got to do. You got to pull that back and then pop it out. It's a little more difficult than the others because the other ones they were quick release. Then you pull them off. These here, you got to hold it as you're pulling. But though it's not that hard to pop off of there. These are a little thicker than you think. You don't have to baby them too much, but just be careful with them as you're popping them off. We'll set this over out of the way. All right. And then there's also, I'm sure if you can see it from right here, should be able to see it on here. There's a wire back here in the back. It's got a sensor on it that you have to unplug. It's got the same kind of clip as the last wire. It's just a little white clip that you push straight back. And sometimes those can be a little bit of a booger. That one there, it's actually locked in pretty well. Take you a long flathead if you've got one. Any flathead will work. I just like the long one because it's easier for me to reach. Get back there on it and just kind of push straight back with it. Kind of just like that. Just push straight back. Make sure you're not pushing down on it as you're pushing back. You're just pushing straight back. And if you do that, it'll pop it right out of there. All right, and so then we get it back in there. And we get back up in here. And we get this wire off. Once again, just be careful what you're putting pressure on. Get back in here. There we go. That plug just comes right undone. Here, you got a little push tab on the back side of this. You got to push down on this wire here and pull, and this whole piece comes up just like that. Not very bad. Sometimes some of y'all have the little red lockers on the back of it. Most of the red lockers will pop out. They don't want to go back, or they're broke, or they're disassembled, so not a big deal. Just make sure when you push them back on there that you push them past your latch here and it actually locks in. So now I'm going to pull this front clip right here. You got little C-clips holding the intake onto your hose right here. I should be able to pop every bit of this up and pull it back off of there. That's plenty loose enough. Actually a little overboard, but I always like for them to be loose. I don't want to fight it as I'm trying to get it off. And then I'm going to start easing this up. Ease it up in the back. Make sure I don't have nothing. I may still have one bolt back there in the back holding on. Let me see. It's a little hard to reach back up here. Yep. So let's go back in here. Let's get this last screw out. Way back in here in the back. They made it real easy to get to. I'm gonna have to kind of, we'll go ahead and get my blanket, that way I can get it laid up in here. These are Harbor Freight moving blankets. Not very expensive, they're pretty cheap, and I love them. I use them quite often. I lay them up inside of these vehicles so I can lay across stuff and lay on it. It don't hurt near as bad, and I don't tear up near as much stuff. Now, get back up in here. You got a bolt here, back in this back, and should have one right in here. All right, and everything, most part, should be pretty loose. Let's make sure. You got to kind of help it along as it's coming. And then what you want to do is you want to twist it. Now that you know everything's loose, you can come back up here to the front, pop it loose on this hose right here. Kind of work it back and forth. It can be a little fun to fight sometimes to get off of these hoses. They don't like just coming straight off, especially the way this one here. They've got the bottom, the clamp sits in there for so long and it likes to kind of lock down on it. So you got to kind of get something under there and pry it up just a little bit on the clamp there. See, I go ahead a lot of times as well and loosen both sides here, so that if one side don't give, the other one typically does. Should be. And this in here, it's a little bit of a fight, but you can get it off there. You just got to kind of pull back on this. Be careful what you're pulling on up under here. There's all kind of hoses and clamp, vacuum line. You do not want to break any of it. Just be careful what you're pulling on. As long as you take your time, go easy at it, it's not too bad. All right. Now we finally got it started. Whew. If you'll twist, the reason I twist it back and forth like that is to break that vacuum out hose, gets on that line, and then you can start working the hose back away from it. And if you move it pretty evenly, and just keep going back and forth from side to side here, kind of prying it away from it a little bit. It is absolutely, whew, that thing's grabbed on there. Whew, and finally, easy peasy, comes right off there. Sometimes them hoses, they have such a grab on there, they're not taken off very often. So they get to where they just vacuum to that hose and they do not want to come off. But sometimes it's not always the easiest, but you just have to keep working back and forth at it until you get it off there. It's not that bad, it's just something you got to deal with. If you intend on working on vehicles, you intend on fooling with them, everything's not always going to come right off. It's not going to be the easiest just to pop off there. But you got to keep working at it slowly and don't get aggravated with it. If you start getting aggravated with it, you start getting frustrated, you just need to back up a little bit, walk off from it, and come back to it. So now, each of these holes are now open, and this goes right down into the inside of your block. Like you don't want to drop anything down in them holes. Now we're about to pull this right cover here, but the left side there, we're not pulling. The left side, we're not doing anything with that valve cover. So I'm gonna grab some of these rags. I'm gonna go ahead and stick rags down in the side that I'm not fooling with. at the moment because I do not. You can do this with paper towels, anything. I like using rags just because I have them available here to me. So, let's see here. And I go ahead and just stuff them rags down in them holes on this side here. That way nothing gets down in it, nothing's there. But also make sure as well that when you're doing that, you're not dragging dust off in it that's on the top of it right there. Just kind of, I go straight off in there, but if it makes you feel a little better, just kind of knock the stuff back from around it before it goes in there. And stick these rags down in there, just like so. So now that side's protected, and you ain't got to worry about dropping anything down in it. And typically, if I wasn't about to take this valve cover off, I'd go ahead and cover these holes on this side as well. But I'm about to pull this side, so there's really no point. A lot of times what I'll do, and for your sake on this time, I will as well. Especially if this is your first time doing stuff like this, and you don't typically do things like this. I'd go ahead and just until I was ready to pull it off, I'd go ahead and stick rags down in the right side too. That way you don't have to worry about dropping anything down in there. Because the last thing you want is to drop something down into your block here. Because then, unless you can hopefully get a magnet in its metal and get something down in there and get it pulled out, you're about to be into a mess. Because it is not easy to retract things from the inside of your block without having to tear your engine down. See, just my main purpose of these videos is I want anybody to be able to watch them and to be able to come in and see what it is I'm doing, to be able to get on top of it, be able to look at it and see what I'm doing, and not just the experienced mechanic that knows what I'm talking about, somebody who's fresh at this and just wants to see what I'm doing. And that's why I want to make sure that you're on top of it and you can see everything. So let's get you reset up, and I'll be back in just a second. All right. So now got y'all moved around, got everything set up. Got this where I can talk to you some, but mainly got one inside right here inside the bay so that hopefully you'll be able to see for the most part everything that I'm messing with. All right. First things first, there's a little bracket that's down in here. I'm going to go ahead and pop this bolt out of here. There's a little nut that sits down on top of it that all of your hoses and stuff right here runs down to and connects. And then take a screwdriver, just kind of pop it up a little bit there and work it off of that valve cover. All right, pretty easy. Be very careful, very, very careful what you're prying on up under the engine bay. Because now, the older models, you didn't have to worry about it near as much. But a lot of this new stuff is plastic, and you do not want to start snapping plastic pieces off. Especially they get hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. They're a little brittle at times, so they snap off a lot easier than you'd like for them to. Here's another one of those vacuum lines we were talking about earlier. We're going to go ahead and pop it off, get it up out of the way. Remember, you push that back and you work it. And sometimes you got to push down on it before you release it and then pull up on it. All right. Now, I'm going to take a rag and get some of this oil up that's all over everything, because everything's kind of covered in oil. That thing's been spitting out up under there for a minute now. So I'm going to take a minute, just kind of clean everything up some. It doesn't take long. Keeps you from spreading it everywhere, all over everything. Keeps you from getting it all inside your contacts on everything inside these vacuum lines. Just take a little bit of time and kind of clean as you go. Makes life a lot easier. Alright. So now, on these ignition coils here, I'm going to take this screwdriver, and see, I'm just using this as something to give me a little bit of a grab on the edge of it. I'm not actually using it to pry with. And see, I just use it and push back just like that. Grab my finger with it. I grab it on the end of my finger just like that, and I just kind of push it back. Oh, it's that. You don't want to snap those little brakes off there. So, if you can help it. Alright. Get back in here on this one. Pop it back. And pop it back. And now, all of them off, you should be able to put a little pressure on the back side of the little white clip you press there. Put a little pressure and pull straight back. Oh yeah, see the oil up and on it already? Oh boy. Push that one, pull straight back. Push that one, pull straight back. And now, they're all disconnected. And now we're going to go ahead and unhook the wires off of our VVT solenoids. Same style clip, same way. Just put a little pressure on it, pop up. Little pressure, pop up. Put some pressure here. And pull straight up. Little pressure here. Pull straight up. Like that. Now, you can kind of throw this harness out of your way a little bit here. And I'm going to go ahead and pop this one off the very back here. It's got the same style clip on it. Kind of push back, put some pressure, and pop it off. Alright. You got one more here. Same way. There. And pop it off there. Alright. So now that harness should be completely disconnected. Now, I pulled these clamps already to where they sit on here. But usually you got a clip that sits here, you got clips that sit back there that actually tie it down to the top here. So on your valve cover itself. So what you're going to want to do on those, just like that's the ones we was talking about before, you can get a pick off on the inside of there and release the tab on it. And once you release the tab on it, you can get another pick and pull the zip tie out from around it. But by doing that, it'll make your life a lot easier when you go to put them back on, because all you got to do is put it back in there and grab it and pull. But for me, on the most part, I just try to route it. I don't put all of those clips back on there. This is my personal vehicle, so it's not, usually if I'm working on it for someone else, I put everything back. But on my personal vehicle, I made sure it's not going to be enough to where it's going to get off into anything, it's going to hurt anything. And I make sure to strap off the harness enough to where it's not going to get off and get burnt, but it ain't strapped at every little angle that they had it at. Now, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and pull these ignition coils. 8mm. Alright, pull the bolts out, drop it in the pan. These coils here, I always spin back and forth just a little bit, kind of break the seal and pull straight up. And then we're going to do the other two, same way. Alright, pop this one up here, spin it a little bit, break the seal, grab it with both hands and pull straight up. Right. One more, it's the fun one. It's all the way back there in the back. And there we go. Now we got all three ignition coils out. Then put over here to the side. Let's get up in here. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect whatever hoses and wires is left. Shouldn't be any wires left disconnected on this side. Should have hopefully everything disconnected there. Let's get that kind of spun up out of the way here. All right, that should be everything disconnected. There's gonna be a little tension back here in the back because of it, how it runs around in the back there. But that's not connected at the moment. So all right, we are now ready to start pulling these bolts out of the valve cover. So let's get them loose. We'll get them pulled up, and then we'll get this valve cover gasket. We'll get this valve cover off and get this gasket replaced, or see what it is we have to replace. So grab a socket right quick. It's 10 millimeter. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and try to get these off down here in the bottom. They're the ones that, these are gonna be a little more of a pain because you got this bracket down here. I'm gonna try to fight you. You actually have, so it looks like these are nuts here, but they're not. They're actually connected to the bolt, so don't worry about dropping them down in there. They're not gonna, the nut's not gonna come off of the bolt and just fall down in there. All right. So now let's get the rest of these loose. These are not torqued very high whenever they're put in, so they shouldn't be too tight coming off there. I may have a little bit of pressure on them, but not much. Give it a little assistance. Break it loose. Alright. Got another one of those back here in the back. I'm going to put an extension on so I can get to these a little easier back in here. Alright. Let's get way back in here in the back. Go ahead and get this roughing out. Now, you can take these off with an impact. I take them off with an impact. Typically when I go back, I don't, because all these have to be torqued to spec. So make sure you're getting your torque specs and all, and when you're putting them back in, you're actually running them down to torque spec. It is very important, if you want these to seal off, to torque them back to spec. See if I... Alright, and I'm thinking that should be the last one. Let's see here. Now, these are typically sealed down very, very tight. They do not like to come loose. So you just got to keep working back and forth up each side. As I'm about to show you, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to take a screwdriver. I'm going to kind of go up under the edge as I go. I'm just going to be careful as I go. And you just kind of tread lightly as you go. Remember, it is plastic. It's a hard plastic, but nevertheless, it's plastic. So just pry lightly. Just kind of be easy with it. Don't try to get in too big of a rush with it. Don't try to snatch it too much. It's going to be a little, you can pull on it a little tougher, but I'm just here to tell you it will be a little tough coming off of there. It's not the easiest to want to come off. So start breaking under this side here. Start breaking under this side here. All right. Come back here in the back. I'm gonna go ahead and pull my rags, lay over to the side here so I can see what edge I'm working on. All right. Let's go. All right. Let's keep working it. Keep working it up. Keep working it up. All right. You can see I've already got it started here. Got it started here. All right. Then I'm gonna come down here on this bottom. Very careful of what I'm pulling on. All right. And then all right. Everything seems to be moving as it should. Just don't be careful when you get your screwdriver. Don't run it up under that valve cover gasket. Just kind of run it at corners coming down through here. You don't want to get off onto your rockers and all that's sitting up under there. Alright. Get past this little bracket here. It's always fun. Brilliant design of that. Gotta love it. I guess you don't have to love it, but you're not going to be happy with it. You really have a whole choice about what to do about it. Alright. Now, get up under this bottom side here. Get it popped up more. I'm telling you guys, it's just there's no fun way of going about this. It just is what it is. It's not the easiest to break loose. It does a lot to break loose. It's holding down a lot. There's a lot of gas. You got gaskets in between each of these, all the way around the edge, all of these bolts. It's got harnesses that want to hold it. These clips. And you're gonna keep feeling like you missed a bolt. You didn't. It's just that tough. All right. Just gotta keep working both sides. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and pop my dipstick here. Clean it off. And we'll set it over out of the way. Now that you got the dipstick out, you just got to keep working this thing. I'm telling you, it's not fun. But really, there's no other way to go about it. You just got to keep popping it up in places, get around where you can. Prop a little bit here and a little bit there. And then you just got to keep shimming it until it comes loose. We've almost got it here. One of the roughest things about this side is this clip that's right here. It stays in your way most of the time, and it wants to fight against you the entire time. Was not a very good design. First thing is going to be get in there and get that popped up enough to where it gets off of. There we go. Well, that goes up under it. That way it's no longer fighting you, because that will hold you back the entire time. All right. Here now. And then every now and again, even though you've loosened the bolts all the way, you'd kind of hit them again, because they're going to kind of want to get caught up. The ends of the threads, I want to get you off in there and kind of hang up a little bit with you. And then there we go. So it finally broke loose. Now, I don't know if you've seen that or not, but there's dust that's kind of moving around on there. You don't want to dump that off in the top here. So it's going to ease this back, ease it up, around everything. All right. So, just in case we didn't get a very good view of it, I want you to see right here. I want to show you the top side. I want to make sure you get a full view of this top side here. It's about here, 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 here. These are the back. This is what's sitting in the back. Here, 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 and here, and here. Now, you can take this and you can pause it right if you need to. That way, whenever you're looking off into yours, you can see what you need to disconnect. You got these wire harnesses here. You'll have a hose that connects in right here. You'll have a clip that sits back in here. and you'll have a clip that sits in these. Anywhere you see these little things right here is going to be little clips that's going to hold your wires in. And then your ignition coils will go down inside of here. But you'll want to release all these bolts and then just start working it up. Where our problem has fallen on this one, didn't really have much of an issue with the bottom gasket here. It's the ones right here. And if, try not to dripple everywhere, but I'm failing miserably at the moment. But if you zoom in down here on these, you can tell there's little flat spots down there inside of it. And where those little war spots is, I know it's going to be hard for you to see right there, but those little war spots, that's where those are going to be. That's where it's leaking by. It's blown through right there, and the oil's blowing by it right there. All right, so let me get this over here out of the way. Okay, so now all that's off. As I was showing you, I've got to have a valve cover gasket, and I need to go ahead and get all the gaskets, the ones that cover over the VVT solenoids and the ones that cover. You can get it all in a kit. All right, so let me go get the valve cover gaskets. It's going to take me a little bit of time. I got to run and get them. Should just be a couple seconds for y'all. So let's go. I went ahead and decided I was going to just get the parts, go ahead and replace the valve cover gaskets on the one side here where we're leaking. But the more I got to thinking about it, the more I was like, well, might as well just go ahead and do it all at one time and get it done. I don't want to get all of this together and then come back and start having a leak on this side. So in saying that, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and tear down this left side as well on the passenger side here. Get it tore down, get it ready. I've actually ordered the valve cover gaskets. I ordered the whole kit. It'll be supposed to be in a few days. We'll see how the mail's going here lately. But once it gets in, we'll get y'all back in and we'll get everything back together. So for now, let's jump into this and let's go ahead and get this left side tore down as well. First things first, I'm gonna climb up here. I'm gonna go ahead and start on this side just like I did on the other. I'm gonna come in. We're gonna go ahead and start removing the electrical components. We got some wires running down to the top here. I'm gonna go ahead and pop these clips on each of these. Right now I'm gonna go ahead and pop these clips on the top of the VVT solenoids. And once again, you just pop the tabs up, push them in, pop them out. And I can already see it looks like there's been some oil bypassing by this one. Not as bad, it's not leaked out around it, but I can already see right there you've got oil already on the inside of it right there. And you can kind of see the oil residue coming around it here, so you can tell it's been blowing by just a little bit. So come up in here. I'm gonna go ahead and pop each of these off of this harness here. It's the best thing to do to go ahead and get the wire and harness out of your way. Pop these clips up here. Now these here are a little different. All right, so now I'm gonna come in right in here. There's a piece right in there that you can hit. See here. That tab there is still, I see it right in there. There we go. Maybe I should have released this. And then tie it back in here. Okay, so we're going to continue to pop each of these off on these harnesses. Good thing is here, we're good. I'm gonna go ahead on each of these coil packs. I'm gonna go ahead and pop these back here and pop these loose. And just like we did on the other side. And I'm gonna take and pop each of these little clips back. Be careful when popping these white clips back that you don't pop them completely out. That the white clips don't come all the way out of there. You're gonna need them to still show you what I mean. When they come back, they just come back flush with this back side here. Now, whenever you put them in, you'll push those forward and lock it in. But when you pull it back, you just pull it back right here where it's flush with the back side. If you continue pulling, then white pieces will pull on out, and then you will have a time trying to get them back inside of there. So do not pull those all the way out if you can help it. All right. Now that we have all of those loose, I have a couple, looks like the clamps here. This will be a good place to show you how I release these clips. Looks like here on this one. So you can either, like I said, you can either try to pop them up right here, or it's not really the way I prefer it, because you typically break them whenever you do that. Typically, I grab a couple picks, like so, and I come in, and up under this bottom side, it's going to be kind of hard to see in the film, but up under this side right here, there's a little piece on top of it, right in there. If you'll take and fold that up, you'll stick that in there just like that and pull up on it. It pops up just like that. And whenever you pop that little tab up there, keep it twisted up. Then you'll stick this other pick in the other side and you'll pull it through. Sometimes it'll take you a couple times to get it hooked in there right. Just like so. There we go. Now I've got that hooked in there. And then we're going to pull the zip tie out the back side there. Just like that. And then that'll pop right out of there. Just like that. And then they stay clipped in there. They stay clipped into the top just like this one here. It's clipped in. And you don't have to worry about, once you pull them off, most of the time it breaks the pieces off on the inside. But just like that, see? Now, it's just there ready for whenever you get it back on and you get it back in there. All right. So this next part that I'm about to do right here isn't completely necessary. I do it so I can remove the harness completely out of the way. But there's a wire down here on the bottom. It's one of the same little white clips as the others. I'm actually going to use this pick right here to get down in here. There's one last wire that runs down the front right here. You don't have to. You may can get enough slack in your wire to move it back out of your way. Me, I prefer to have that whole harness just pulled over out of the way. That way I'm not trying to fight it the whole time. Because I'm telling you, when you're trying to get these off, you've got enough that you're fighting with. Besides trying to fight a harness laying over in your way. So, especially when it's just one wire to unclip and get out of your way here. All right. Let me get down in here. Let me pop that loose. All right. And once you pull that loose, you'll pull that wire back out and around right here. And actually what that does is it doesn't fully allow you to loosen that up completely right there, because there's a wire that runs on down to the front that you can go and disconnect if you want. I'm not going to. It gives me just enough slack to pull this over and back out of my way. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and pull these rags up and kind of move them over for the moment. Just gonna leave them right here though, because I'm going to put them back once I pull this off of here. All right, look over everything else, make sure. You'll have this clip back here, this gray clip that you'll have to pop off of the back here. It sits on these studs.
in order to move it back out of the way. And then you can decide how you want to attack this. But you have a fuel line that sits on here. And the fuel line, see, even though you pop that clip out right there, that fuel line holds it put steady, but it does not allow you to pull it out. There's a special tool that you can pop up in these and pop those fuel lines off if you want. However, you have to pull this whole manifold anyhow, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pull it and set it back out of the way. You can decide whichever's best for you here, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to disconnect this line here. So let's go ahead and get on that. Then we're going to grab an 8mm, put it in the ratchet, pull this bolt here. All right, and now that line is now disconnected. And I'll be able to pull the line out around it. And now we have to get the star bit. So the star bit's here. If you don't know what a star bit is, it's big bits. It's big star bits that's got star heads in it to go in here. This is not the correct size on this. Let me see what I got. And then you're going to grab a T45 star bit. I'm gonna grab an extension. I'm gonna use this ratchet here to go ahead and break them loose. I'm gonna grab the shorter extension and pop on there. Be easier. All right. Break that one loose. And then break the one loose on the far side over here. All right. Now, let's get this one out of here. Pretty long bolts, so you feel like you turn long enough, just keep turning. They'll come out eventually. And then, now, we can now pull that up and swing that back out of our way. Which I'm gonna swing back up here on that wall, and now it's out of our way. And now, rip another pair of gloves. Don't take long once you get gas on them to lose the set. The next step's gonna be, gonna come in here, always double check, make sure you've unhooked all your wiring harnesses, you pulled all your lines, you've moved. Now, you've got the fuel pump out of the way. So now it's time, we're gonna go ahead and pull the bolts around the outer edge right here. Get ready, and let's pry this head off as well, this valve cover off as well. All right, so grab a 10mm, and just like the other side, we're gonna go around, pull all the bolts out. All right, and so now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna pull these bolts around the outer edge here. It's a 10mm. And so now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna pull these bolts around the outer edge here. It's a 10mm. Go ahead and get all of these pulled loose. Remember, as you loosen them, these are not gonna pull up out of there. They're held inside, so they're just gonna come loose. All right, once you get them all the way out, just make sure they kind of move some, that way they're fully loose. That way you're not fighting it later. Get this one. This one here. Right now that one's loose. Now here. And now remember, this one in the back, it's got the long stud on it that you pulled that clip off of earlier. The hole, you ain't got to worry about the nut coming up off of it. The whole stud comes up as a hole. So it's the same way. Drop down to this bottom side. You got one that's gonna be hid back here in this far corner down here. It's gonna be behind all these wiring harnesses and everything else. All the way back in the back corner. It's a little hard to see, but it's there. Get it on there, get it loose. See. There we go. All right. There's the rough one undone. Then you got the other one with the stud right here as well. And remember, as y'all are tearing yours apart, you may have a few more wire clips on yours. Mine, it's been into before, so there's some of those clips are not on mine, but you're gonna have some down through here where you're seeing where I'm pulling these studs from. You're gonna have clips on these bolts most of the time, so just pay attention to them. If this is your first time ever getting off into one of these, just be very careful. Take your time. You're gonna be perfectly fine. You can do it. You don't need someone else to do it with you. You're perfectly fine. Just take your time. All right, there's gonna be one that's right here in this back. It's gonna be a little more difficult to get to right here. It's gonna be hid on you. And if you're at this point in the video and you're wondering if you got all the bolts, if you'll skip to the end, and once I pull this off, I'm gonna hold this up in the air and show you and give you a view and let you see where all the bolts are located on here. So you can skip to that part, see where all the bolts are, and then come back to this part if you want, but that'll give you a little bit more of an insight on where each bolt's located. All right, so now, just like the other side, you've got a little 8mm nut that's on there that's holding another bracket on, that's holding these lines on that's coming through. And they're a little bit of a pain to fight right here. I'm gonna have to get a little bit shorter. I'm probably just gonna get a wrench to get down to that part. It's gonna be a little easier. I'm just gonna grab a little 8mm wrench, and I'm just gonna pull this off with a wrench. It's gonna be a lot easier right in here than trying to get a socket on it and get a ratchet in there. I just dropped a wrench down in there and was just gonna clip it out, but decided not to. For those of y'all that's been a mechanic for a little bit, you already know this pretty well. For those of y'all that's just trying to get started or just trying to do some of the stuff on your own, you're gonna drop wrenches. You're gonna drop them down in there. You're gonna drop them down into the side. They're not gonna fall all the way down. I highly recommend you get a magnet. Little pin magnets, they're great to reach down in there and pull these wrenches up from the side of the bay. I have to use them all the time. You get in here, you start dealing with oil, you start dealing with grease, you slip with things, and when you do, well then you start dropping things, and it happens. You're not the only one to ever drop one off in there. So get you a magnet, something where it's easy to retract it from, because it's gonna happen eventually. All right, get this one off here. We're about ready to pull this one off here. All right, so now we can pop this one up. I'm gonna take a screwdriver and pop this bracket up here and go ahead and get it up out of my way. I know you're probably getting tired of hearing me say it, but I'm going to continue to say it because it's very important. Be careful what you're prying on. Don't just pry on anything. It's all plastic, and be careful with it. You don't want to get in there and break the ear off of something. Just be careful what you're prying on. All right. So let me get in here. Get these last two bolts loose. So now you're gonna get an 8mm. You're gonna pull these bolts and their ignition coils. I can get these 3 out of here. All right. Now we can, remember, kind of twist these side to side some and pop them straight up, just like that. All right, there's one. Here is 2. And let's get this one back here in the back. And there's 3. All right. So all 3 of the ignition coils out of there. Set these over to the side. Let's get in here. See if we can start moving this some. Right. Screwdriver out. Let's work this edge right here some. Now, most of the time, as I told you before, you're going to have, there's a split in these about here, right down in here. And there's going to be just a little bit of silicone down in those right there, just to keep it from leaking on the split right there. So you're going to have to pop them to begin with to kind of break that little bit of a seal that's on that. But then after that, you're just going to start working it up around the edges here, just like the other side. I'm seeing one bolt back in the very back there that I've missed. So let's go ahead and get it right quick. And see, guys, this is something that, and this isn't my first time taking one of these apart. So it's very common. You're not going to remember a lot of times where every little bolt is or where every little piece is. So it's important to keep going back. Just take your time, be slow, and just make sure you're getting, you know, you're not trying to force it too hard. If you see that you got a lot of resistance in an area, go back, see if you're missing something, see if something don't like it's moving right. Just keep working it around until it pops up. And remember, go to the end of where I pull this off on the video, and you'll see, and I'll show you where every bolt is on here so you can see it. That way you're not questioning whether you've got them all loose or not. You already know. I don't remember if this has to be pulled off or not. I'm going to go ahead and pull the bolt just to be safe. For some reason I'm not thinking it has to be, but it may have to be. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it just to be safe. I'm not fully sure that that's got to come off there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a T30 star bit. And I'm going to pull that right there just to make sure. I don't think that had to be pulled off there, but no matter what, I would have had to pull it at some point because that's another one of the gaskets that's going to have to be replaced. You have 2 that's right in here, and then you have 1 that goes around right in here. So they have to be replaced anyways. At some point, it's going to have to be pulled, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it now just to make sure it's not giving me any resistance. Go back to commencing to prying up just a little bit here and there, seeing if I can get it some movement. And guys, when I tell you these are very difficult, they do not want to move, they do not want to come loose. I know you're going to feel like that there's got to be something else held. I'm telling you, it's just they're very, very tough to get popped loose. I have a big bar that I use sometimes. I'm not going to use it on this just for the main fact of I'm going to show you how I would do it with just regular tools. You know, most people ain't got a big pry bar laying around, but most of you's got a little flathead screwdriver laying around somewhere. So I want to show you that it is possible just working this edge just with a little flathead screwdriver. And then keep popping back and forth and keep working it until it finally comes off there. Alright, let's keep going. Keep working, keep working. And be careful that when you don't just shove your screwdriver up under there, because you got your rockers, your cams, everything right in there that you don't really want to have a screwdriver on trying to make nicks in. Stay on the outside lip. And if you keep working the edge, you'll keep working the lip. You don't have to worry about getting off it. We are working around the edge. Keep going. And also remember too that if you're trying to get up in here for some reason, say you're just wanting to replace the BBT solenoids or something, I do recommend that you go ahead and replace these seals and you don't just put it back on there, because more than likely once you break the seals loose, a lot of times it's going to be really hard to get them to seal back. So all right, so as you can see, I started moving mine. You gotta watch this little line right there. Try not to pull on too awful much. All right, just keep working it back and forth for a little bit, and you will get it to start moving forward where it needs to come. All right. All right. And let it back down. Just ease it out from the back here. Keep working it. Working it around here. There you go. And now it is out. So, as I told you before, so as you see this is going to be the front. This is going to be what's in the back. You've got a bolt here, 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 and here. Okay? Remember, you're going to have to pull the two from here. And I don't necessarily think you have to pull this one yet. I do, because it's got two little pins right here that goes down on the inside. And by going ahead and getting it out of the way, you're stopping from it catching and pulling any kind of moving around. And then you're going to have to pull your bolts from your ignition coils here. But anywhere, see on mine, it's been gotten into before, but I want you to see, like right here and here, and then you see these places here where it looks like something's been broke off. You can tell the tabs have been broke off where the wiring harnesses came off of it. So all of them are going to be clips for you to pull the wiring harness from. And then on the inside where you have these studs, typically you're going to have one of those. It's going to be a gray clip that's going to slide down over the top of them and be on there. So you're going to have to pull all of them loose as well. Something you didn't see me do, but it's something you're going to have to do. But I also want you to see, if you look in here on this seal, so you can actually see there's some warm places and flat places around inside of this right here. So you can tell it's slightly been leaking by. I don't see any grooves in it yet from where it was pouring by, but I can tell it was already leaking by, and you can see where it's wet on top. So I'm glad we're going ahead and replacing these and being done with it. I don't see where it looks like it's been leaking by any here. But I am glad we're going ahead and getting off into it and just going ahead and replacing it, because you can tell they're old and they're kind of hard. They should have a little flex to them. They should move a little bit. They should be rubbery. These aren't. They're hard, and you can tell they're old. So I'm glad to be. We're going to go ahead and replace these. All right. So now that that's off, I'm gonna crawl up in here. I'm gonna kind of look over everything. And as you're in here, I go ahead and feel around on all my rockers and all, make sure they're not loose or moving around or got a lot of movement to them. Everything seems okay in here. Remember, it's very, very important that if you're going to leave these for a minute, and even if you're not, while you're setting everything else up, you want to take and put rags down in these holes right here. You do not want to leave those open.
You don't want to leave that open where stuff can get down in them. It goes right down into your block, and that's not something that you want something fell down inside of. So, well, there's how to tear down this side. I'm still waiting on the parts. Once the parts get in, it'll be a couple days for me. We're going to put them back in.